All right, guys. Our next guest is coming off a big win over Mizuto Hirota at UFC Auckland. He is now 2-0 in the UFC and riding a 12-fight win streak. A man with dynamite in his hands, Alex the Great Volkanovski. Welcome to Submission Radio. How's it going today?
I'm very good, very good. How are you guys?
Very well. And Alex, we have to ask you, where are you joining us from at the moment? Are you still in New Zealand or have you come back to Australia already?
Nah, I'm back home now. Back home, just having a coffee right now, and I'm eating some Kingston biscuits.
Love some Kingston biscuits. That's our guilty treasure. Are you like us? Are you smashing one packet in one sitting?
No, I'm not too. Back in the day, give me a couple of fights ago, I probably would have, but I'll be pretty responsible nowadays after my fights.
Now, let's talk about fighting in New Zealand. What was it like fighting overseas? You fought in Guam a couple of times, but other than that, all of your fights have been in Australia. What's the biggest difference between fighting in New Zealand compared to fighting at home?
It didn't really feel outside of Australia, to be quite honest with you. I had the same people around me that I'm sort of used to, and I got to train there at City Kickboxing with guys I knew, so I don't know. It's just, to be honest, I didn't even really think of it as overseas. So I guess that's a good thing.
Did you get a chance to explore Auckland much, or was it straight home after the fight?
I didn't. We ended up going straight home. That's one thing that I love about New Zealand is like the landscapes and the mountain. I actually do a little bit of hunting and fishing and adventures and all that sort of stuff. And, what better place to do it than New Zealand? But unfortunately, I had to get back to the family and we got the flight, the next day. So I was spewing about that, but I'll be back there. I'll go back there and, I'll definitely get to, go through the landscapes there one day.
Don't tell us you didn't get a chance to celebrate that night. We're expecting to hear there was a big celebration after the big win over Hirota. Are you saying there wasn't any big parties? We're expecting strippers, dancers, confetti everywhere.
No, there wasn't actually. Because I end up having like a little small fracture in the orbital, and I was just waiting for doctors to let me know if I could fly the next day. Because of just because of the air in the sinuses, and because I end up blowing my nose, and my whole eye just puffed up, like the air just went straight into the skin or something. I didn't know that actually happens, but supposedly it's pretty common, and it literally just ballooned up. That's why I looked swollen. It must have just been the air in there.
That's crazy. We remember seeing the post-fight interview. We just thought, a couple of bumps and bruises, but a broken orbital. What have you sort of seen the doctors about it? And do you remember when exactly it happened in the fight?
I do remember. I actually thought it was an eye poke.
Oh.
I think it was in the second round, and it wasn't much in it at all. I think I walked into a jab. I don't think it was our eye poke because I ended up looking at. I think it was just a sort of stiff jab. Like there was nothing really in it, but just that knuckle got right inside the eye. I remember sitting there. I thought he gave me a little eye poke. I remember you actually see me wipe my eye, but I think that's exactly when it happened. But it didn't take long till I got the vision in that eye back straight away, pretty much. So was nothing to worry about.
What are the doctors saying? How long is a recovery from a small crack in the orbital? Would you be out for a certain amount of time? Is there any kind of clear indication how long you have to wait till you can, I suppose, get back in the gym and get back at it again?
Well, probably a few weeks off, sparring and all that sort of stuff, contact directly to the face. But there was it wasn't out of line or anything like that. Everything was pretty good, but there's just a little, honestly, they said it's a small fracture. They said its recovery time won't be too long at all. So I'm not too worried about it. I'll be able to train. I'll be able to do pretty much everything else. I'll just make sure I won't get hit in the face for the next few weeks, I guess.
Yeah, great. Well, that's good because you're obviously coming off a lot of momentum, so it's good to see that you'll be able to come back soon. Before we talk about the fight,
I want to get back in there straight away.
Oh, absolutely. Before we talk about the actual fight itself, Alex, we've been dying to talk to you about your past. One of the crazy things we read this past week was that when you played rugby, you used to weigh 97 kilos. For those in the States listening, that's 214 pounds. And it's crazy considering that you fight at 145 pounds at the moment. I'm just wondering, how did it feel when you had all of that extra mass on that frame? What was it like walking around at that weight?
Oh, man, I was like a balloon, mate. I was just round. I was, I was always been bulky, sort of bulky, but definitely, obviously, a lot of fat there as well. But and that's why I still got that sort of stocky sort of build. But yeah, man, I was just real thick, and it's just I don't know, like it was just normal back then, I guess. Like I didn't even back in the day, I didn't think I was too fat, I guess. But I look at the photos, I go, yeah, I was definitely pretty overweight. But it's definitely the lifestyle change is just crazy. Now I'm eating pretty good, and I eat comfortably as well still, and I can just stay at a good weight now. So it's definitely a good change for the better. But I don't bloat up like I used to actually, because my first few featherweight fights, I used to fight and fight at 66 kilograms, and then within 4 or 5 days, like literally 4 or 5 days, I'll be back up to like 86. But that's just water. I just used to, I used to just hold a lot of water. And that's why even now when I fight, I usually, after the weigh-in, I'll put it on 10 kilograms fight day,
Wow.
So it still goes there, but I don't really bloat up over, 76 or something anymore. My body's just slowly starting to get used to these weight changes. And it's definitely making my weight cuts a lot easier now.
For those not familiar with rugby, we've got a lot of listeners that are international. Talk to us a little bit about the kind of parallels that you guys have between rugby and wrestling, because from what we understand, we've had some people that we've trained with in the gym before, previous rugby players and league players, and their takedown defense is just naturally really good because they know how to use their hips and they know how to stay up. They also know how to get their arms around your legs and sort of trap you and put you down. Did you find that when you first started doing your wrestling to stay in shape, rugby sort of helped you with some of those core basics that make wrestling work?
Definitely would have helped a little bit. But I actually done wrestling before I played rugby league. I done maybe like a year or two of wrestling. Mm-hmm. So that was I played soccer and then I done wrestling when I was about 12, I think, 12 to 14 maybe, and I was like national champion and stuff like that, and I just gave it up pretty much straight away and then played rugby league. So I'm guessing the wrestling definitely helped me with the, good base to have, and good core, and just, I was always very hard to tackle and, a strong defender and stuff like that. And my wrestling definitely would have helped with that. But definitely the rugby league, obviously the contact, and as you were saying with tackling and all that, and, they even bring wrestlers in to help them with their defense, like a lot of the coaches do. So it's obviously there's a bit of a similarities in there, and it definitely comes and helps each other out, I guess. So definitely I could see why some of the rugby league players would be hard to take down.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you sort of ever look at rugby players and think, man, like you would be great in MMA, you should transition? Because I feel like some of Australia's best athletes, they are in rugby, especially some of the, the bigger guys that have that agility, and MMA like really needs talented heavyweights. It'd be great if there was sort of a big crop of Australian heavyweights all of a sudden coming from, guys that instead of going to rugby came into MMA. Yeah,
100%. Being athletic definitely comes a long way, and being naturally fit, and they're probably some of the hardest things to accomplish. So that definitely plays a big part. Obviously skills you're going to need it, but it's just being athletically gifted and fit goes a long way. So they definitely could make a change, and you probably will start to see stuff. MMA is getting so big in Australia now, like. Yeah, don't be surprised if you start seeing some of these NRL players give it a go, and you never know, they might be fighting on the same card with me one day.
I'm curious, because playing rugby or league, that's a pretty big deal over in New South Wales where you are. I mean, that is the main sport, and for people listening overseas, it's kind of like sort of playing a high level of basketball or American football. There's a lot of fans. There's money to be made, a lot of sports coverage on that. When did you first kind of feel that you wanted to make this transition into MMA? Because especially for where the sport was when you first kind of made that transition, it wasn't where it is now. And to a lot of people, they kind of look at it as a bit of a risky move, considering you were doing so well in another sport that was so popular.
Yeah, there's a lot of my friends and teammates and all that thought I was crazy when I wanted to make the change, because I never made it to the NRL, which is that's like the UFC of MMA pretty much, but that's more national level. But I mean, so I don't think I was ever going to really make it. I'm a competitive sort of guy, So And knowing that I didn't think I was going to make it, even though I've made a lot of rep sides, so just sides that are just under sort of NRL. I just because I knew I wasn't going to be at the pinnacle of the sport. I was like, oh yeah, I had a couple of fights my last year of rugby league. And we won that the grand final. I got player man of the match, and just it was a really, really good year for me. And I had a couple of fights that year, and I won them pretty, significantly. So I was like, oh, you know what, I'm going to give it. I ended football in a good year, so I might give MMA a crack. And then 5 years later, I'm in the UFC. So it's been considering how long I've been training for, I think 6 years I've been training MMA for, and already been in the UFC is pretty unbelievable. Especially I wish I started younger. I guess all MMA fighters say that, but what do you do? But again, I'm still got so much room for improvement. A lot of people don't realise how new I am to the sport, and you can only imagine in a year or two where I'm going to be fighting at this level.
Well, we've got a lot of friends who are athletes who try to be pro athletes. And I guess one of the things I picked up from talking to them is for them, one of their goals is to make it to that top level, to make it to that NRL, to make it to that NBL, to make it to that professional peak where they could say, look, we're playing with the big boys. We're here with the best of the best. When you finally made it into the UFC, and I mean, it was a really, really long journey for you. A lot of people felt like you should have been there a lot sooner. Was that almost like an achievement for you being able, because in rugby, you mentioned how you felt like you weren't going to get up to that NRL level, getting up to the top level in MMA in the world. Was that almost like a little bit like achieving a little goal of yours in the back of your mind, making that professional level in a sport?
Yeah, 100%. Like as I was saying with my career, it's like pretty, it's over 6 years. It's gone so quick, sort of like considering when I started. But from when I was trying to get in the UFC, which was a couple of years ago, I was pushing. I already had a really good winning streak, and I was pound for pound in Australia. Took out a lot of the national titles, world title, etc. I was pushing for UFC for a while, and that's, as you were saying, a lot of people are like, man, when's this guy going to get in? What's he got to do? I was already 7-8 fight win streak, and I just kept winning and beating, fighting at so many different weight classes as well, taking out titles in welterweight down to featherweight. So a lot of people were pushing for me, and to finally get that, obviously for me as well, I want to do this. This is what I do for a living at the moment, and I've got a family. So just a relief to know that I got that, bit of a backing in the UFC. It was just, as I said, a relief. It really was. I'm just finally, I'm here, Now I've got a bit of direction. I can really, commit 100%, and mark my words, I'm going to be hitting these top ranks soon. And it's only up from here.
And I'm just wondering, you mentioned that you were pushing to get into the UFC for so long. What exactly happened? How come you didn't get that call earlier when you were having these impressive fights and these impressive streaks? Did you have any contact with the UFC? Did they give you any sort of reasons or messages, or did you just not hear from them for a long time?
It was just that time of when I was trying. It was, they weren't really signing anyone. It was before, I don't want to get into too much there, but before that, the new owners and stuff like that, there was a time where they weren't really signing anyone. Mm-hmm. They were just, because there were so many people on the rosters and all that, they were just, because, a lot of people are going to get injured, and then they're going to get desperate and they have to sign people. So I guess they were always, you know what I mean? That was a big part. And like they would tell us, we'll see what comes up. And there was a couple of chances where there was an injury, and then short notice you get in. That's how a lot of people were getting in at the time. That's like pretty much the only way in, especially in the featherweight and lightweight division, like, the real stacked divisions. Yeah. And that was the case. And I had opportunities. I don't know if you knew, but I had a couple of, one opportunity before, and had a management company that had nothing to do with me, sort of ruined that for me. I won't get into detail on that. So that ruined my, my opportunity, and it was about 6 months after that is when I actually got signed. So I guess I try and think positive all the time, and it was meant to be. Everything happens for a reason. I guess in this game you have to, try and be positive, because there's so much negatives in this sport. But I stuck to it, and I'm here now anyway. So I don't really care about that. But that's sort of what the problem was. Back then, it was just the fact that, they got stacked divisions, and they can't just keep signing people, because then they sign everyone, then people get injured, then they've got to re-sign new people because they're desperate, and then all of a sudden they've got to get rid of people as well because there's too much people in the roster.
It's an interesting time because we don't want to go into what happened with the management company, but like you mentioned, you got close to being in the UFC a number of times. People felt like you needed to be in the UFC with the streak that you were doing. They weren't signing that many people at the time, like you mentioned, but you've got your family, you've got your wife, you've got things going on. What was it? Was there any time leading into that? I know you're a positive guy, but was there any time leading into that you got close to sort of giving it up and doing something else? I mean, there's not much money to be made fighting locally in Australia, so there must have been a lot of pressure and stress on you in terms of that kind of regard.
Yeah. Well, I've always been that confident because I've been training with UFC fighters and high-level guys for a long time, so I knew I was more than ready for UFC. I knew I was always going to make it, so I was always confident like that, but I just wanted it to hurry up. But if I had to choose a time where that was sort of my lowest point, it's actually funny. Was probably a week. I think it was a week or a week and a half before I got signed. So it was really, really funny. I just had a low point. I was really pushing, and I just had a bad week. And then I even remember being at about to train, and then I just got the shits once, and I actually went home, which I've never done before. I ended up going home just because I was angry and just it sort of got to me. It was weird. It was only little things then, but it just sort of man, what do I got to bloody do? And that weekend, I ended up getting my major sponsor. So first off, I got a major sponsor, which definitely was oh, how good is that? You know what I mean? And then I think the weekend following was when I got signed. So it was within a week and a half, just two probably the lowest point, and then just two massive, just positive things that just happened and really bang, just turned around that quick. So there you go. Yeah, probably a week and a half before I got signed, I was at my lowest point, but luckily I didn't give in.
Wow. I'm always amazed by these stories where people make it, but a lot of the times behind the scenes, people don't realize is they're actually very close not to making it. So it's always inspirational in that sense. And here you are on a 2-fight win streak. I'm curious, what was it like being in the octagon this time around compared to the first time in Melbourne? I imagine the first time there would have been a lot of pressure. I don't know if you really felt the octagon jitters because your performance was good, but were you a lot more comfortable this time around because you got this first one out of the way? And did you feel like you got to show more of yourself this one against Hirota?
I'm always pretty comfortable in the octagon, to be honest with you. That's one thing that I've always been good at. I don't really get too nervous, and I keep a cool head. I don't get mad or anything like that, and then, I don't G myself up and then, just go wild. I guess my style is sort of like that anyway. It looks like I'm just going hell for leather, but, that's just more my style. But I'm usually a pretty, cool-headed. But this time, I actually had a really bad run before my fight. I ended up, because I went to the UFC retreat. Mm-hmm. That was in Vegas, and I was in
Don't tell us
Thailand.
Chris Cyborg attacked you.
No, she didn't. Luckily. No. So I was in Thailand before that. So I was done a lot of traveling in this 2 weeks, and I come back, and literally as soon as I got off the plane, there was straight away I just started getting sick. And then the last 2 weeks before my fight, I've just been crook, one after another. I end up getting don't know if I should even say this is, I pretty much told him, obviously everyone knew I was sick, but I ended up getting a bad staph infection the week before the fight.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's another thing. So I was on antibiotics all week. I just finished my antibiotics the day before the weigh-in. And, so that's why I had a bad run. I've probably done 50% of what I usually would train in the last 2 weeks or something. I had a lot of days off, trying to recover, and it was just, it was a pretty bad run. So talking about how I was feeling going into this fight, I was probably more nervous than I was in my first fight, just knowing that, I wasn't fully prepared like how I usually am. And, is there antibiotics going to affect me, which they have affected me in the past. I remember feeling, pretty run down with antibiotics and being crook and just everything. And then I even got sick the night before the fight. We end up, it was just bad weather. It was pretty cold down there, and I was coughing all night and woke up and I was like, man, I don't feel good. Wow. And I was like, man, this is a bad run. But I was trying to stay positive, you know what I mean? I really, I was even sort of with my coaches, I was putting on acts I was that hyped up still and just trying to be normal. I didn't want them to know that something was up. Well, they knew about my infections and that I was sick and all that, obviously, but that, and my coach heard me coughing the night before, so he knew I was coughing, but I was just playing it off. And so, yeah, man, I felt terrible fight day. Like, I felt so different to usual, but to go out there and still go 3 rounds, win all 3 rounds, and people were saying how good of a performance it was, and just knowing that I could still go out there with some of these guys and do that. It's now, it gives me so much confidence, you know what I mean? I can't wait till the next one. Imagine me at 100%.
Yeah, I think it makes the win so much more impressive knowing everything that you went through. I'm just wondering, why didn't you withdraw from the fight? Did the thought ever cross your mind? Why did you, obviously fighters are extremely tough and there's a lot of line, but what went through your mind, and did you think about withdrawing at any moment?
Look, it always plays like, man, am I going to have to? I was just talking to people and, what am I going to do? How have they fought with antibiotics before, and, is it going to affect their weight cut? But I was like telling my coach and telling, the wife, I go, I'm fighting. I don't care. I have to fight. So I just need to find out the best way. So I obviously can't go over there with I can't fight with a staph infection. So I need to make sure it's gone before then. So I end up getting rid of that. I knew that would be gone. So I didn't, really run that through the UFC because I knew it was gone. But it's just, yeah, man, it was just bloody, I don't know how, I wouldn't say that, I never really thought that I was going to give the fight up. I couldn't, I missed out on a fight earlier this year, and I was like, I have to get in there. I literally have to get in there. So I end up just finding ways around everything, and then, but I mean, like I said, so I was already before the fight thinking to myself, if I pull this off, man, this is going to be unreal feeling, you know what I mean? And yes, I was already thinking of speeches in my head, like thinking, tell everyone I felt run down. I still got the knockout. I'm happy with that, But so it was, it's crazy. But I mean, now I look at it and I think it's going to be very, very good for me in the future. Just knowing that, as bad as it was, I can still go out there and perform. So if I get crook another time, I don't mind having days off. I'll make sure I recover, and I won't try and push through things which get you more sick, which is what was happening. So I'll definitely be a lot smarter and better with my approach, especially if I'm getting close to a fight, etc.
And I mean, let's talk about the fight, because it was a great fight. You had Hirota and dropped him in the first round. Were you surprised by his toughness and that he was able to hang in there?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I knew he was going to be tough. Like, you watch his fights, he gets hit, and he's never been finished. So he's never been finished before. Not finished. He's never been knocked out before. So I knew he was going to be tough, but I thought I'd still finish him. Especially me being sick, I'm like, I need to get the knockout. I don't want to go 3 rounds. I don't know if I can do it. So I was like, I've got to knock him down. If I get him hurt, I'm going to, go through. But because I was crook as well, when I had him hurt and I got him down, I was trying to finish, and then that opportunity sort of left me because he done well to really suck his head a little bit closer to the body, so I couldn't really get them elbows going. And then I was like, oh man, I don't want to. Usually I'll just be persistent. I'll jam his head back to the floor and then just come back with bombs, but I didn't want to wear out. So I had to play it a bit more safe, and just purely knowing that I could burn out at any second. So I think that really played a fact in me getting the finish. But take nothing away from him. He's got a hell of a chin. I hit him with some big shots, dropping him, and he just kept going. Them spinning elbows, but some of them landing clean, and brushed it off like it was nothing.
That was an amazing fight. And during it, the commentators mentioned how you weren't really a huge featherweight, and you've said to us before that you'd like to ideally drop down to bantamweight. Has there been any talks between yourself and the UFC about you potentially doing that?
I don't think so. Nowadays, when I first originally said that, I thought I probably could do it, but I mean, it's going to be a really big cut. And nowadays, everyone's just doing so good in their natural weight classes. You're seeing people that have been, doing these big cuts, and then, look at Robert Whittaker, you know what I mean? Even Dan Hooker, like going to lightweight, and, what a performance, you know what I mean? So things like that. So it makes me think, that's sort of gone. The big weight cutting days are sort of gone. And I might not be a big featherweight height-wise, but I guarantee when I go into that octagon, I'm just as heavy, if not heavier, than most of the featherweights. And I feel very strong for featherweight. And again, even me being crook, even in a lot of the, while we're in the clinch and all that sort of stuff, I wasn't committing to nothing. I didn't want to burn out. So that's why, looks like he was doing well in the clinch, but I felt so much stronger than him. I just wasn't, really pursuing the clinch too much. So I'd just break off with spinning elbows and go back to standing and then just try and pick some shots.
Talk to us a little bit about that knockout power. I mean, you're known for it. It's unbelievable the way you're able to just stop opponents. Me and Casper were talking about it, and we thought maybe it's something that comes from your days playing rugby, a strong core and being a bit heavier and dropping down. But is it something that you've always had, that kind of power in your hands?
Yeah, I guess, it's always been, I've always had heavy hands. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was from the wrestling days and maybe genetics, or I don't know. Like, my family and my dad and brothers, like, we're all pretty strong. And we all got a good right hand punch. So maybe it's genetics as well. But I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But it's even maybe my build. Being so short and stocky, and like you said with the core, maybe it's just got something to do with that. But put it this way, even though Hirota took him well, I still believe I can finish anyone in the division with one of them punches.
And just quickly, I'm just curious, Alex, did you ever get into fights back in your rugby days? Obviously, you were taking professional fights when you were playing rugby. I know you're a nice guy, but did you ever have any sort of fights on the field? Any funny, crazy stories you can tell us?
Yeah, I've definitely been in fights. I've always looked, me being European and that, I've always looked older than I am.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always, people people just pick me for some reason. Like, I'm the type of guy, I'm nice. I try and stay out of trouble, but if it comes to me, I'm not going to back down as well. You know what I mean? So that's how I've sort of always been. And my dad, ever since I was young, my dad's always told me, if you feel like this is when I was younger, I wouldn't do that now. But he was like, if you're ever feeling danger and you feel like, this person's going to hurt you or like going to try and punch you, you throw the first punch. That's what my dad used to tell me. So, sometimes you get put in that position and that might happen. But I mean, nowadays, obviously, I can't do that sort of stuff, so I don't go out anyway, but I don't ever really run into dramas like that. But, yeah, I've definitely had fights. Football fights, we've had some big football fights. I've actually, I remember getting one. I remember backing up 1 year, so I'll tell you the story.
Yeah.
I was stepping up a year. So that whole year we stepped up. Like, we didn't have a 16 side, so we played under 17s, I think. Oh, no. We didn't have a 17, so we played under 18s. And we were already stepping up. And our whole team was. And then we had guys from the grade below us, like under 15, step up to help us because we didn't have many players. And they were sort of trying to bully us. They were smashing us. And then they were like trying to get like some of the young kids to run at them and stuff like that. And then I'm like, no, I'll run at you, sort of thing. So I ran at him and they done a decent tackle. Wasn't too good. And he starts yelling in my face. And then we grabbed each other and gave a couple of, little shoves. And next minute I was on, and then I end up, I'm not too proud of it, but I end up giving him a couple of good ones and end up doing a bit of damage and got sent off. So it's not fun, even though it's a fun little story now to tell. But you still look at it and you think, I could have avoided that. But I guess that's sport.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely sport. Memories of me getting soccer kicked in the head playing AFL here in Victoria. I mean, it's just a part of. I didn't. It's not funny to me even now when I think about it. But yeah, funny. Me yelling on a muddy hill at a guy and almost slipping over while he's on the bench. My girlfriend sitting there with her hands over her face. Anyway, let's talk about what you said after the fight because. You consider yourself a nice guy and that you want to be fed the bad guys and that it's time for good guys to make some money. Tell us a little bit about what exactly you meant by that.
Well, I just mean like everyone, you know what I mean? Like even to me, like it's sort of I take it sort of personal a little bit as well. Like a lot of people sit there and you probably hear it all the time. Everyone's like, oh, yeah, you need to call someone out. You need to, give people shit. And rah, rah, rah. But everyone's doing that. Literally everyone is going out there trying to, just call people out, trying to be the bad guy. And I just saw, you know what? That's not me. I'll go, fine. You just want to play the bad guys? I'll play the good guy. No one's playing the good guy. So I'm like, all right, I'll play the good guy. If you want to, go out calling people out and be the bad guy, I can be the real life hero and take them all out and take the division out. Be the good guy. Now, that's what I was saying. That's what I wanted to get the knockout, and I was going to get the knockout, say put on a real big performance and then say, feed me these bad boys and feed me the 50 G's while you're at it. But, it didn't go that way. Like I said, I was a big crook, but I mean, for, it could be a potential fight of the night or something like that. So I was like, I still ask for the 50 Gs. I think everyone's asking for the 50 Gs nowadays.
Oh, of course.
But yeah, I pride myself on being a nice guy. You know what I mean? Like, I get along with everyone. I'm that guy that apologizes halfway through a fight to the referee and gets taken down. I don't know if you've seen that on my debut, but that's exactly what happened. I was on top of Yusuke Yachi throwing bombs, and then I end up like leaning forward and put my hand on the cage, and then the ref's like, "Watch the fence, Alex." I look at him, I go, "Sorry, mate," and then that's when he actually took me down.
Wow.
So I don't know. You didn't see that one.
We were there live, but we actually didn't even notice.
Yeah.
So it's
Did you hear that one? Yeah.
It's good because now we know, and now everybody else knows whenever they rewatch the fight. And I'm just trying to sort of understand your mentality, just sort of from your mind. What exactly is it that puts you off about trash talk? Is it fair to say that we'll never see you trash talking in the UFC?
No. I wouldn't say no trash talk. Like, you know what I mean? Obviously, people are going to have their bites, and I'm going to be defensive. You know what I mean? I'm still going to, but I'm not going to just. Look, I'll be lying if I said I'm not going to trash talk and that. Like, you're still going to see your fair share of me, saying stuff to people. But, I mean, I'm a nice guy, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to try and shake his hand. If he tries to mean mug me and that, I'll still try and shake his hand. I'll laugh in his face if he wants. But come fight time, I'm going to, take his head off either way so he can talk whatever he wants. But, like I said, I'm going to play the good guy. Good guys talk back, so I'm allowed to do my own sort of trash talk. I'll let them start the argument though.
And speaking of good guys, I mean, there's a few good guys in the featherweight division. I mean, the biggest bad guy that I guess we're all talking about is Conor McGregor, and he's gone from the division. What are your thoughts of the landscape of the division now? Obviously, you've got a new champion in Max Holloway. Some uncertainties there with Jose Aldo, Frankie Edgar looking to possibly fight him next. But apart from that, the division kind of looks pretty wide open. What are your thoughts on the state of it at the moment?
Yeah, I think people just need to realise that Conor's definitely not going back to 145. That's not going to happen. I can guarantee that. And if it does, cool. But, I mean, that's not going to happen. So right now, Max Holloway's a champ, and that's what everyone needs to sort of focus on now. But, you're right. There's obviously you've got Frankie Edgar still up there, Rodriguez and things like that. But mentioning them, a couple of names, they seem like good guys. So I don't know. I don't know what my next play is. Too many good guys up there, but I'm sure there's bad guys. There's a couple that I was actually. Well, there was one that I was meant to fight in Canada, and because I usually knew about that fight that ended up falling through. I had 3 opponents changed in like 3 days or 1 week for some reason. I don't know, but they just kept changing, and one of them was Andre Feely. And so I was, he's a decent name as well, you know what I mean? So respect to the guy. I was like, looking forward to that fight. I was thinking, that's a good, there'll be eyes on him. So I would love that. But for some reason, that didn't happen. But, I don't know if he plays the bad guy or not. But, I mean, if he does, then I guess we could make something like that happen. But I don't know, man. To be honest with you, hopefully someone calls me out. Like I said, I want them to make the first move, and then I can sort of bite back.
Yeah. Hopefully somebody will be calling you out soon. Alex, we appreciate the time you're giving us, so we'll let you go in just a moment. Just wondering, in terms of timeline, you stated that you want another couple of fights this year. At this rate, you're sort of going to climb the rankings pretty quickly. Is that your goal? Are you looking to sort of get that title shot as quick as possible, or are you sort of happy to constantly, hone your skills regardless of where the fight puts you in the divisions? And when are you looking to fight next? And also, do you want to sort of have another local fight, or do you want to get some new fans in other demographics and maybe fight overseas?
I'll just fight anywhere. Definitely fight local as well. I want, as you say, I want to fight as regular as possible. So as long as the doctors go, you can fight in 6 weeks, I'll fight in 6 weeks. Obviously, I can't spar right now, but I can definitely stay in shape. I can definitely work, some techniques and all that. So I won't be stopping the training. And if there's a matchup available, I'll definitely snatch up whatever I can get. And like I said, I need to shoot through these ranks, and to do so, I need to fight. And so bring them on. Or whatever fights we do. Like, I'd love to fight overseas as well, but let's see what they throw at me.
And ideally, if we're looking at the amounts of fights for the rest of 2017, what's a number that makes you feel good?
I want another 2. I want at least 3 a year. In featherweight division, like I said, it's a stacked division. They can't promise you so many fights. But I mean, if I could get, if I fought in February and then I fight, supposedly there's talks of this November card in Sydney, I mean, that would have been fine. I would have been happy with that. But missing out on that February fight really makes me want to fight a couple of times before the end of the year. So, yeah, I'll definitely, give me another 2.
All right, well, there you guys go. He is the nice guy in the featherweight division. If anybody's listening, call him out. It's time for him to get some more fights in 2017. And make sure to follow him on Twitter at Alex Volkanovski. Alex, we really appreciate the time. Any messages to your fans around the world? I know there's a lot in the US after the fights this past weekend.
Thanks for the support. And like I said, if you liked what you saw on the weekend, expect bigger and better things, because I can definitely do better than that. And don't be too thrown off with the whole not calling out someone. Like, I'm the good guy, but, there's comes a time where you might have to offer, ask someone out. Maybe I can do that very respectfully, but I might have to call someone out very soon.
There you go. Awesome.
So stay tuned.